Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare Hare Krishna Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Gauranitai Jaya Gauranitai Jaya Jaya Prabhupada 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada धर्म हरिनाम संकीर्तन की जय। ग्रंथराज श्रीमद् भागवतम की जय। जगत गुरु श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरये। नष्टप्रायेषु भद्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया भगवती उत्तमश्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्ठिकी। So we're reading from Canto 5, Chapter 2, The Activities of Maharaj Agnidhra, Text 1. So I'll just read. Sri Shuka Vacha Evam Pitari Sampravritte Tad Anushasane Vartamana Agnidhro Jambudvipau Kashaha Praja Aurasavad Dharma Vekshamanaha Parya Gopayat. What word meaning? Sri Shukadev Goswami Uvacha said, Evam, thus, Pitari, when his father, Sampravritte, took to the path of liberation, Tat Anushasane, according to his order, Vartamanaha, situated, Agnidraha, King Agnidra, Jambudvipa Okashaha, the inhabitants of Jambudvipa, Prajaha, citizens, Aurasavat, as if they were his sons, Dharma, religious principles, Avekshamanaha, strictly observing, Parya Gopayat, completely protected. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Translation. Srila Shukadev Goswami continued, after his father Maharaj Priyavrat departed to follow the path of spiritual life by undergoing austerities, King Agnidhra completely obeyed his order. Strictly observing the principles of religion, he gave full protection to the inhabitants of Jambudvipa as if they were his own begotten sons. Purport. Following the instruction of his father Maharaj Priyavrat, Maharaj Agnidhra ruled the inhabitants of Jambudvipa according to religious principles. These principles are exactly contrary to the modern principles of faithlessness. As clearly stated here, the king protected the citizens the way a father protects his begotten children. How he ruled the citizens is also described here. Dharma Vekshamanaha, strictly according to religious principles. It is the duty of the executive head of a state to see that the citizens strictly follow religious principles. The Vedic religious principles begin with the Varnashrama Dharma, the duties of the 4 Varnas and 4 Ashramas. Dharma refers to principles given by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The first principle of Dharma or religion is to observe the duties of the 4 orders as enjoined by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. According to people's qualities and activities, society should be divided into Brahmanas, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas and Shudras, and then again into Brahmacharis, Grahasthas, Vanaprasthas and Sannyasis. These are religious principles, and it is the duty of the head of the state to see that his citizens strictly follow them. He should not merely act officially. He should be like a father who is always a well wisher of his sons. Such a father strictly observes whether his sons are performing their duties, and sometimes he also punishes them. Just contrary to the principles mentioned here, the presidents and the chief executives in the age of Kali are simply tax collectors who do not care whether religious principles are observed. Indeed, the chief executives of present day introduce all kinds of sinful activity, especially illicit sex, intoxication, animal killing, and gambling. These sinful activities are now very prominently manifested in India. Although 100 years ago, these four principles of sinful life were strictly prohibited in the families of India, they have now been introduced into every Indian family. Therefore, they cannot follow religious principles. In contrast to the principles of the kings of old, the modern state is concerned only with propaganda of levying taxes and is no longer responsible for the spiritual welfare of the citizens. The state is now callous to religious principles. Srimad Bhagavatam predicts that in Kali Yuga, the government will be entrusted with Dasya Dharma, which means the occupational duty of rogues and thieves. Modern heads of state are rogues and thieves who plunder the citizens instead of giving them protection. Rogues and thieves plunder without regard for law, but in this age of Kali, as stated in Srimad Bhagavatam, the lawmakers themselves plunder the citizens. The next prediction to be fulfilled, which is already coming to pass, is that because of the sinful activities of the citizens and the government, rain will become increasingly scarce. Gradually, there will be complete drought and no production of food grains. People will be reduced to eating flesh and seeds, and many good spiritually inclined people will have to forsake their homes because they will be too harassed by drought, taxation, and famine. The Krishna consciousness movement is the only hope to save the world from such devastation. It is the most scientific and authorized movement for the actual welfare of the whole human society. Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjana Chakshurunmilitam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Jena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guraho Shri Juta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakan Vitamscha Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prishthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swamin Nitinamine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shanyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namne Gauratushe Namaha He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostate Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhano Sute Devi Pranamami Haripriye Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhupya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Mokam karoti vachalam pangum langhayate girim Yad kripatam bande Shri Gurum Dinatarinam Paramananda Madhavam Shri Chaitanya Ishwaram. Hare Krishna. So we have completed chapter 1, that is activities of Maharaj Priyavrat. Now chapter 2 talks about his son, Agnidra. So it is very nice that in the month of Kartik, we're getting this opportunity every single day to hear Srimad Bhagavatam. So before Kartik started, I asked a few of my Grahastha counsel, send me your vows, what vows you want to take. So they had this, every day we'll hear Srimad Bhagavatam. So I was just thinking it's so nice that we want or we don't want, our vow is there. We have to hear Srimad Bhagavatam. It's an autopilot mode. And as it is said in Kartik Mass, whatever activities we do, is multiplied many, many, many times. And as in Srimad Bhagavatam, 10th canto, the Brahma Vimohan Leela pastime, there Shukadeva Goswami is telling that why and how are these different Gopas are sitting with Krishna and participating in such intimate pastime of feeding prasad, feeding the food from their own mouth to Krishna. And there the word comes, Krita Punya Punja. That is only by amassing a lot of spiritual credits for many, many lifetimes, they have become eligible to associate with Krishna so intimately. So we as devotees in ISKCON, we also aspire, as Gaudiya Vaishnavas, as ISKCON devotees, we also aspire to serve the Lord personally in the spiritual world. And Srila Prabhupada tells us again and again that we have to go back home, back to Godhead. So if that has to happen, then one has to get the mercy of the Lord. And this month, that is the Kartik month, which is very, very dear to Lord Krishna, it is an opportunity, and I also call it as a shortcut to go back home, back to Godhead. So let's utilize this very nicely. Every single day, all the things that we are doing are mentioned in the Puranas, be it singing the holy names, be it chanting the holy names, be it hearing the glories of the Lord, watering Tulsi, touching Tulsi, circumambulating Tulsi, offering Tulsi to the Lord, offering ghee lamp to the Lord. So this is something which is there in the system now, which we are doing every single day. The only thing that is needed is consciously doing it, understanding it's the auspicious month that is going on. So here we have another great personality in Srimad Bhagavatam, Agnidra, the son of Maharaj Priyavrat. So Priyavrat Maharaj, he divided the entire Bhumandala into 7 islands. And one of the island is Jambudvipa. And this Jambudvipa was given to Agnidra. And Agnidra, what he did was, he divided that into 9 parts. And he gave it to his 9 sons. And out of which, I think the southernmost is the place where we are staying, the Ilavrita Varsha. And in that, we have this planet called Earthly Planet, or Bharat Varsha. Now it's very nice to note here that one aspect is highlighted here very nicely. That is Priyavrat Maharaj strictly taking care of his citizens to make sure that they follow the Varnashrama Dharma. And this quality has been imbibed by Agnidra, and he's also making sure that in the society, Varnashrama Dharma is strictly followed. We have been discussing this, even His Grace Harikshirpa was also mentioning this point about Varnashrama Dharma. Why is it so important? So Varnashrama Dharma, in fact Prabhupada says that is important. Initially Prabhupada wouldn't speak much about Varnashrama, but with time as ISKCON movement proceeded, then he started speaking about Varnashrama Dharma, especially the Daivi Varnashrama. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he quotes saying that it is very important to establish Daivi Varnashrama back into the society. Now some people might say that this might be out of fashion, this is something that is not needed. But it is needed because Daivi Varnashrama does not depend on the birth, but it depends on the quality and the activities of the person, as stated in Bhagavad Gita also. Guna, Karma. Now these two are taken into consideration, Guna, Karma. Now, when it comes to us, I'll just focus on ashram devotees. So when it comes to us, it's very important for us also to understand that which ashram is clear. So we are in Brahmachari ashram. So we need to follow the principles of Brahmachari ashram. So various principles of Brahmachari ashrams, like for example, always being under an authority, not having financial independence, not having time independence, and always engaged in the service of the Lord. So these are some of the principles that we need to see, are we following or not. or will be a hidden grihastha in the brahmacharya ashram. So it's very, very important to understand what are the principles in various lectures we keep hearing and following the same. So that makes a person fixed up in the brahmacharya ashram. And the next thing is the varna, that is brahmana, kshatriya, vaishya, shudra. Now when it comes to this also, it's very important that all of us are doing devotional service as Prabhupada says, but at the same time our services might be different. So someone might be inclined or having the qualities of a shudra might get engaged into the activities of a shudra. Someone having a quality of a kshatriya or a brahmana will get engaged in the activities of brahmana or kshatriya, and similarly for the vaishya. But in the spiritual life, it's very important to note whatever service we are doing, according to our nature, we have to understand that all of that is for the pleasure of the Lord. That makes a huge difference when we have this understanding. So Prabhupada says that the person who is cleaning the floor every single day and the person who is doing the deity worship every single day, so there is no difference between the two because both of them are serving the Lord. So artificially we cannot portray ourselves, oh no, I am a Brahmana, I have Brahmanical qualities, so I'll do these different activities. So what will happen? Say if the person has got qualities of a Shudra and trying to enact or imitate a Kshatriya, so what will happen? The person will become disturbed. Like for example, a person who has the qualities of a Shudra is supposed to be under an authority all the time. He should be controlled. And when it comes to Kshatriya, so Kshatriya will control Ishvara Bhava, as Bhagavad Gita says. So that is natural. So a Kshatriya will control, and a person who has Shudra qualities will be controlled. Now just imagine, when a person who is having Shudra qualities start imitating a Kshatriya, how miserable his life will be. He's supposed to be controlled and he would be satisfied if someone controls him. But then when he takes the position of a controller, then he'll become very, very miserable because he'll not fit into that particular system. So in our ashram also, in our devotee circle also, it's very important that we as devotees with time should analyze our nature and our qualities. And then with time we have to engage ourselves in those activities, majorly in those activities. When we're expected to do some service, yes, we are there, we are ready. As Prabhuji was mentioning the other day from Srila Prabhupada's quote, that a sannyasi in devotional service, he might take a particular role, even the role of a Shudra, just to make sure that the organization, the setup, keeps running, keeps moving ahead. So this is the base on which we can do devotional service peacefully. If our activities are not proper are not matching or not in accordance with our nature, so we will not be peaceful. It's very, very important. Outside people are also suggesting peace, even devotees also need peace. Without that, we cannot execute devotional service. It will be very difficult. I've analyzed for myself, with my, when say I'm doing some service and I'm not satisfied with it. So what happens is, the mind will get disturbed. And when the mind is disturbed, focusing on various activities that we're doing, consciously doing those activities becomes very difficult because we'll be absorbed in thinking something else. So that peaceful state is important, to do devotional service. Obviously, again, having said this, it is very important to note that devotional service does not depend on anything. But to execute it very properly, because of our contamination, we need that state, a state of existence where we are peaceful. And on that we can build, this wonderful thing that is devotional service. Another very important thing when it comes to Varnashrama is that in the Vedic times, the Shudras will not feel envy of the Brahmanas. They will not feel, oh, no, they are doing this, I am not able to do this. They would understand and they would stay. In fact, there were times when the Shudras were not allowed inside the temple. And they would happily stay outside and take darshan, whatever darshan they can get, and whatever prasad is distributed, take and go away. So there was no competition as such, if we see. So this competition is the modern contamination that is there. Modern contamination. I also want to become like that. Not understanding that with privilege comes responsibility. This is not understood very clearly. So it's a very important point to note that this competition between people is a very, very great contamination. And when it comes to devotees, and if there is a competition, a very unhealthy competition, that's very, very abominable. Because the understanding in devotional service is what? The understanding is that all of us, we have a unique relationship with Krishna. And all of us have a unique service to Krishna. All of us, we have a unique position in the spiritual world. Yes. So what does that mean? Unique means that I'll be doing devotional service, that devotee is doing devotional service, and say if there is a comparison and that devotee is better than me, still that devotee cannot occupy my position in the spiritual world, or he cannot replace me or my relationship with Krishna. So this understanding that I have a unique relationship with Krishna, I have a unique service to Krishna, that gives a lot of peace, a lot of satisfaction. Then there will be no problem of comparison. Thinking, oh, that devotee is able to do nice services, I am not able to do. This recently I am seeing that in my circle also, that people are coming and asking, people are having this difficulty. They are not able to get satisfaction in the service what they are rendering. Why? Because there's the problem, competition, comparison. There's no need of comparison in spiritual life. There's no need of comparison at all. We have to understand our nature and we have to engage ourselves in the service which is in accordance with our nature, and we will see, we'll be satisfied. Another very important thing, when we are there in the Brahmacharya ashram or as full-time devotees, Maya Shakti will make sure that she'll keep attacking us in various ways. And one of the attack is this, comparing. Oh, look at that devotee, look at this devotee, and whatever. Another thing, another contamination that will creep in is the envy, towards others. See, feeling jealous of someone is still okay. But feeling envious of devotees is something which is very, very abominable. Means trying to put obstacle in the path of devotional, in their path of devotional service. Not allowing them to progress in devotional service. Pulling them down. So I keep reminding myself again and again, because more and more leadership roles we take, this tendency might creep in of pulling people down or stopping someone's spiritual progress or whatever. So it's very, very important to remind ourselves that this is Maya's trick. Another Maya's trick as for full-time devotees, can be the material desires, that she gives us as the benediction. So various material desires will come. And there are two ways in which we can get material desires. One is the offenses that we commit. We have been speaking about offenses from quite some time now. The offenses that we commit. So the 10 offenses to the holy name, the 64 offenses, the seva aparad that is there. So the offenses that we commit, especially the Vaishnava aparad. And the second thing is asatsang. Asatsang, or the bad association. That's why Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, asatsang tyag ei Vaishnavachar. Now, why he has to say that? Because if someone wants to be in devotional service, one has to practice devotional service, one has to be free from material desires. Okay, sometimes material desires popping up here and there, okay, that's understood because of the past samskaras. But actively meditating on the material desires and desiring that this should get fulfilled, oh, that's very, very abominable and very, very contaminating. So this is a trick of Maya. So as soon as we get this material desires, we have to understand that I have done something or the other. Either this is atsatsang or I've committed offenses, that is there. And I was discussing with Harikshitapu and Prabhuji enlightened me about this topic. So I was telling that many times senior devotees also do some immature activities. They shouldn't do this. That my immaturity, I was saying this. So Prabhuji made it very clear that it's not that they're immature, but then when we commit some offense or when the association is not proper, what happens is the Lord covers himself. And at that particular point of time, we'll be in darkness, we'll be in ignorance. And when we are in darkness or ignorance, we'll not understand only what we are doing. So it's like, it was a very great caution, for me. Now, as of now, we are very confident about devotional service. As of now, we are very confident about Krishna consciousness. We speak about it, we preach about it. But, some offense, some material association, what will happen? It will be almost like the switch is switched, or the button is switched off. Now light is there, button is switched off, and then everything is dark. When everything becomes dark, we cannot see things around. Similarly, we might be confident in Krishna consciousness now, but then if Lord decides to switch off the button of Krishna consciousness, everything will be dark. And the same person who speaks about Krishna consciousness, who is confidently practicing Krishna consciousness, will start doubting the process itself. Will start doubting, people around, who are devotees. So these are the different things, which we can consider, and that gave me a lot of clarity of how to respect even the senior devotees who might sometimes behave immaturely. It's not their immaturity, but then that will be a spike, a lower spike that is there, which pulls them down through whatever activities that depends on Krishna and they. We are nowhere in between to analyze. So this is a very important thing to note. As full-time devotees, such care has to be taken so that we continue staying in the luxury of devotees, staying in the luxury of a place where the time and autopilot sadhana is offered every single day. Now another thing which is mentioned here, so a lot of things is mentioned about the government and what's going to happen in future. So Prabhupada is making it very clear from Srimad Bhagavatam that the future of this world is very, very dark. Very, very dark. In 1960s itself, Prabhupada was speaking about this point that when people started eating fetus. So Prabhupada was speaking about this point that how from now itself we can see that people are getting into eating human beings, cannibals. So with time, what is going to happen? We can just imagine. We can imagine. In fact, those China markets, I had seen some photos. The fetus were hanging like this, like we have chicken hanging, like the fetus were hanging, and some fetus were like proper shape of the baby's face and body has already manifested. Such fetus were also hanging here and there. So we can understand that how abominable this world is becoming day by day. It is just 5,000 years past. Yes. Still 4,27,000 years are remaining. I don't know what else is remaining now. As Prabhupada is telling here, rains will be irregular, and with time the rains will become very scarce, and then with time Prabhupada names few items, that is grains, sugar, milk, all of that will not be available, and people will get degraded day by day in their consciousness. So here one point is made, that is the Krishna consciousness movement is the only hope to save the world from such devastation. Now I was just meditating on this point that if this is the case, the Krishna consciousness is the only hope for saving the world, then there are people needed who sacrifice their life. Without sacrificing our own life, we cannot keep Krishna consciousness movement on. It's very, very difficult. It will not be possible. If everyone is just taking care of themselves, who will push forward this movement? Who will push forward this movement? Even when it comes to grahasthas, we have seen that they have to sacrifice their time. They have to sacrifice, some personal commitments, to engage, in preaching mission, to engage in pushing forward this movement of Krishna consciousness. So yesterday, when we were sitting in the Govardhan Puja and relishing the entire festival, gratitude for Srila Prabhupada is increasing a lot. And I was thinking, at least, as a person from Karnataka having a Mayavad background, which we have in our family, I don't think ever, till my last breath, I would have ever understood what is Govardhan, what is Govardhan Puja, and what is Annakut all about. It's only the mercy of Srila Prabhupada that we came into ISKCON, or we bumped into ISKCON by the mercy of devotees. And by his mercy, we understood what it is, and we are able to celebrate these wonderful festivals. If we are getting this benefit, then we have to understand that what sacrifices Srila Prabhupada has done. This is a meditation. Is that sacrifice is something which is not something which the mind invites for. Yes, it's very difficult. One has to literally endeavor a lot to sacrifice. And it is not something that is natural. And what will help us as devotees, what will help us as brahmacharis, is the meditation of this point that what all things did Srila Prabhupada sacrifice in his life. So we see Srila Prabhupada sacrificed the place Vrindavan. He sacrificed his sadhu sangha there. He went alone. He sacrificed his health. He sacrificed so many other different things, which he could have just been there in that luxury. And I was hearing that Srila Prabhupada, when he was there in Vrindavan, he was a very well-known devotee, in that particular community. People would respect him a lot. And there were times, and there were people who were very eager to serve Srila Prabhupada. And then that devotee was speaking, and he was telling, I think it was a Prabhupada disciple who was saying that having all that luxury, still Prabhupada sacrificed all that just to take Vrindavan outside this boundaries of India and give Vrindavan to others. And today we see, when I was in Vrindavan, we were seeing entire Vrindavan was flooded with devotees from different places. There were devotees from Russia. Russian devotees are many Russian devotees, a huge number. There were devotees from China, devotees from Africa, devotees from UK. Just by seeing that entire crowd, we can understand what Srila Prabhupada has done. And it's very nice to see the glamour that is there now. But then in the background, the dark phase that was there, in which Srila Prabhupada was sacrificing every bit of his existence just to establish this movement, push forward this movement, is something which is very great. Yes. So it's a very important point to meditate on, that if this Krishna consciousness movement has to move ahead, has to be on for a long time, for next 10,000 years with the same spirit and same enthusiasm, then there should be a set of devotees always who are sacrificing their every bit of existence to push forward this movement. And if such crowd is not there, then it's very difficult. And such a crowd's qualification is they have to be selfless. Selflessly they are rendering service. Selflessly, they are pushing forward this movement without thinking twice, what will I get for myself? What will I get for myself? And such people are the ones who will be recognized by Lord Sri Krishna, no doubt about that. Because this is not our mission. This is not our mission. This is the mission of Lord Sri Krishna himself, to reclaim the fallen conditioned souls back home, back to Godhead. So this is not our mission. So when we are sacrificing something in the mission of the Lord, for the mission of the Lord, so why will not that devotee become very dear to Krishna? So in this way, Prabhupada is ending this entire purport with one line. It is the most scientific, Krishna consciousness is the most scientific and authorized movement for the actual welfare of the whole human society. We can give another purport on this particular line. So I'd like to pause here. Any question or comments?
So this point, Shudras are not allowed entrance and they were peaceful. So basically that was not
that was not proper, yeah. Now I was just saying that how they were following the order that was given from the top, and they were still okay. So that point I was.
But that is the point of trigger of whole counterculture.
Yes.
So like in the proper system, like they were allowed, but they were not allowed to worship the Lord. So this is like this one of example of somebody is subjugated more than what they are supposed to be.
Yes.
And that causes revolution.
This point regarding you mentioned comparison and envy, so we say that all the features or all the qualities we have, so they come from the Lord or they are reflection of the qualities of the Lord. So but we say enviousness does not exist in the spiritual world. So how come this quality or comparison in that area?
So same thing, like we always say this, right? That the topmost thing in the spiritual world is love, which has got reflected, or pervertedly in this world as lust, and that is very strong. Similarly, the mood of service, which is there in the spiritual world, assisting each other to please Lord Sri Krishna, and when that gets reflected here, we understand pervertedly. We understand that we become envious of people around, not just people around, even the Lord Himself. So there, the center is the Lord, and when that gets perverted in this material world, we become the center. And then we start doing everything abominable just to keep ourselves at the center. So like that. So it's a perverted reflection that is there. There is no question of negative qualities in the spiritual world.
Comparison also does not exist.
Comparison, So that's a very different level of competition and comparison and all that. Comparison, though, I'm not sure, but competition, we understand the healthy competition between the two camps of devotees there, who wants to serve Krishna very nicely. Or even when it comes to the Gopas and others, they have a different healthy competition that how Krishna will be pleased. But it is also told, in Srimad Bhagavad, in the pastimes of the Lord, that the Gopas would have competition of who will go and touch the Lord first. And then whoever go, so that's a competition that is there, and everyone is running, to touch the Lord. So Lord is there somewhere ahead, and all of them are running. But then when anyone who goes and touches the Lord first, yes, all others are also happy. All others are also happy. Oh, he did it. He did it. So it's a different thing altogether. It's very difficult to comprehend in this world that what is meant by healthy competition. how can that exist? But it exists in the spiritual world. Yes. Okay. ग्रंथराज श्रीमद् भागवतम की जय, जगत गुरु श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय.